Was my mic? Oh, hello. Take two. I think we can hear me now. Mic should be on. Somebody tell me if my mic's not on. It said muted and then it didn't. I don't know. But here we are. That is not at all how I thought that third period was going to go. I thought they were probably going to roll over and be done for, but they didn't. So that is good. I have very mixed feelings about this game. Like, I'm going to start with all of the positive because I think that this game deserves a lot of positive, because you have to understand that was the depth. Like, they were probably done for, understanding that they probably would have needed 11 out of 14, possibly 12 out of 14. Now it's 10 out of 14, maybe 11 out of 14. It's a little bit more realistic. It's still going to be hard. We'll get into that as we go down the stretch, and I want to focus mostly on the game today. It's more so for me, though, the way that they came out in that third period, I thought showed a fight that we haven't really seen. When things have gone well, it was, they can continue to go well. And this team, we know, has the ability to beat just about anybody on any given night, even when the lineup doesn't look like it's all that good. Recently, though, there have been times where it will be going well and then it will turn and then it does not come back. And it really doesn't matter if there's an intermission or if there's a goal or if there's a penalty that goes their way or a fight or whatever it happens, big hit, people like that stuff. Most of the time, those things have not turned around into finding a way for this team to actually win. In this game, they come out, they get that transition goal from Stevenson, and all of a sudden you can start feeling like, okay, maybe something's going to happen. But even then, it's 3-1. They needed just an unbelievably strong effort throughout the remainder of that game to make this happen. And Chris is right that we have seen this in November and December, and that was a healthier lineup. It was not quite, this bad. It wasn't healthy completely, but it was similar to this where they were able to get back into games. And I think that bigger than all of that, and like obviously everyone's aware they're going to have to play that way to win 11 of 14 or 10 or 14. They're going to have to be able to overcome some bad things happening to them. They're going to have to hold on to leads. All of this is going to have to happen. We know that no matter what the health looks like. I think the bigger piece here is you're starting to see some of the fun come back, and that you saw a game that was in no way fun at all for 40 minutes. There's just nothing going right. Puck keeps going in the back of their net, dropping defensive coverages, and I'll get to a lot of the things I didn't like because, positive or not, I think today further cemented in my mind this team's not going to do anything, and I don't even think they're going to make it. But I'm trying to stay positive on why it does give me hope that they can, is that Alec Martinez coming back is clearly a huge shot in the arm. Obviously, he did not have a huge impact on the game. He only played about 14 minutes. They're kind of working him back in. That's fine. I think more so you saw some of what the Golden Knights wanted out of him being in the lineup, that he is a special person. He's a fun guy to be around. He is unique in his self-depreciating personality. He's also unique in that he brings a cachet that a lot of guys do not bring, and that has been missing there. And I do think a lot of people saw that cut to his face, know what he's been going through, know some of the mental hurdles that he's had to fight through. And it just is a huge pick-me-up to see that guy back on the back on the ice. I think that is a huge part of why you saw some joy out of this team as it went on, why you saw joy of, this is not going to be one goal. We're getting 3, and then we're getting 4. And no matter what they do against us, we're going to find a way back into this game because that team's not good. We can be better than them, and we need this hockey game. And we got a bundle of that in this game, which is a huge part of why you want to take so much positivity out of this game, is that that's a game that probably ends your season if you blow it. And they didn't. They found a way to fight back in there, do what they needed to do, and get there. And you saw the joy. Obviously, Dodonov, another piece of that. I don't really know fully what to make of any of this. And the reason for that is because he might still go. Like, if Mark Stone is going to be healthy and Max Pacioretty is going to be healthy, Dodonov's probably going to have to go. And the fact is, the fun that you're getting out of this for this short period, I don't know how long it lasts. And I don't know how much you're going to grasp onto this wacky piece of history that's going to go down in, Golden Knights lore as something that I'm not even sure how to make sense of it yet. Still, it's something they're going to want to move on from. And yes, it is fun, but it's not going to be funny every step of the way for all of the people involved every time Dodonov does something. And to be honest, I actually thought Dodonov had a poor game up until overtime. So that concerns me a little bit as well, that he's still the player that we had some issues with. And there were goal scoring stretches. And there's also a piece where there's also a situation where it's probably going to go back to him not scoring goals at some point here. And it might be at a time where they absolutely need them, or it'll come at a time when it works out great and things are good. I'm seemingly getting some sort of connection issue. So hopefully things survive. Cox's internet's been an absolute disaster the last couple of days, but it's a situation that they're going to have to move on from. And Dodonov even said today, we need to move on from. But for now, it does kind of bring a team together. It does bring a group that has a lot going against it, has a lot of kind of adversity is not the right word, because I think they're creating a lot of their own adversity. Obviously, the injuries, but the play on the ice is creating a lot of it as well. They're finding a way to have some fun and maybe relieve some of that pressure. And I think the pressure is completely off Dodonov, and that's why you're seeing a little bit better of play for him. Another huge takeaway from this game and recent games is Logan Thompson is doing the thing. Like, the guy's in there doing everything he needs to be doing to keep his team in the game. He has not been in any way an issue. Now, I understand that Mike has some problems with his stance, and that could potentially be a problem down the road. I don't think that's going to be the case throughout the rest of this season. Like, I look at what they're getting out of him, and he's not making saves that are saving games or, robbing games from other teams. He's not making that backdoor save on Taves. He's not getting the rebound on Strome. Like, none of these things are happening, which is fine. Like, not many guys do that. Fleury's one of a kind. He maybe gets one of those. I don't know. But he's doing the things that you would expect out of whoever is in there. He's not been a backup where, you have some of the issues that we did even see with Brossoit, that we did see with Leonard with Thompson on the one game on the road trip. Like, he's doing the thing to put himself in a position where you feel pretty damn good about him in there every night. Like, that's not going to be the reason why something goes wrong here. In every game that he strings together, and I think it's like 7 now that he's played here, maybe 8, and like 6 or 7 in a row, that's giving you more and more confidence. And I think the team gets more and more confidence as we get through that and as that moves on. And that's a huge part of, like, yes, you give up the goal to potentially blow the game again. You get it right back. And then there's multiple opportunities that he stands in there, battles, and fights through these plays to give themselves an opportunity to find a way to get themselves all the way to overtime. He made a good stop in overtime as well. Like, he's doing the things that you need out of a goalie to give yourself a chance moving forward. What, Villanova's blowing it? Okay. Somebody tell me if Villanova or Houston wins. I timed this terribly to start this. Nonetheless, you guys probably don't give a shit about basketball. I don't really either. I just have a friend who loses a bunch of money if Houston wins, and I think it would be kind of funny. It's kind of friend I am. I think it would be funny if he loses, because he'd probably talk a lot of shit, and has when I have lost. This Periscope and all Periscopes, speaking of winning or losing money, is brought to you by Conler Associates CPAs. Go to conlercpa.com, tell them SinBin sent you. They'll hook you up with a free consultation, have them do your taxes instead of you doing it yourself. If you're winning a bunch of money on March Madness, legally, hopefully, then go to Conler and Associates to have them do your taxes. They'll give you all the good information. They're fantastic people, big-time Golden Knights fans, and big supporters of SinBin. We love them for that. Another huge bright spot, Chandler Stevenson was spectacular today. Moved down the lineup, was really doing everything he needed to do in a situation playing against a lower-end competition. They move him up. He immediately makes an impact playing there with Eichel, puts himself in a position where I think that goal turned the game around. That shot goes wide. They probably do not win this game. So they're in a really good situation. Nova's up. Wow, that's a shame. They're in a good situation with Chandler Stevenson after he scores that goal, that now things are kind of rolling downhill. You're in a better position to be able to make this comeback, and you needed someone to stick a puck in a net, where they've had a huge problem with that. And I'm working on a story that shows they're one of the most inaccurate teams in the league, and that's not getting all that much better, even with some of these games where they are scoring 5 or 6 goals. They're still horribly inaccurate, missing way too many shots, having too many shots blocked. I am a little concerned about how the goals came about. You get the transition, you get a couple of ones where they're tips from the high slot. Like, if you're telling me this team needs 4 goals and they're going to have to get 2 of them on tips from shots from the high slot, I don't like their chances to actually get them. The Eichel one is also a little bit of a goofy bounce. He does make a great play. I thought the setup prior to it, that's kind of making your own luck. I like that goal. But that goal may not come. That puck might bounce out funny or bounce over his stick or whatever. So that is a bit of a concern. But all of it, though, in that 5-minute stretch, really at the beginning of the first period, and it kind of extended right after they had scored the 3 and got themselves back in it, the game was going all in their direction, and they're just completely overwhelming a team that was panicking halfway through that, or 2 minutes into that third period. And that's what the Golden Knights need to do to these shitty teams that they're going to play down the stretch. Like, you're going to beat a lot of them. There are going to be nights where things aren't going right, but you're going to have to find a way to push forward and make sure that that is the case. The last positive that I have here is simply the 2 points. You want them to make the playoffs because they didn't sell at the deadline. They did not put themselves in a position where they're going to their window is open a little bit longer. I don't think they're falling all the way down to the top 10, even if they don't make the playoffs. So you want that to possibly give yourself that crazy fantasy land scenario, the outrageously optimistic scenario that you do maybe slip into third and it's LA in the first round and then Calgary in the second. And by that time, maybe you are a little bit healthier and playing $11-12 million over the cap or whatever it happens to be. So that's why I look at those 2 points are the massive positive out of all of it. Galvanizing game. I think it brings the team together. I would actually prefer that these games were quicker. I don't like the fact that they're going to have 3 days off and a travel and then playing another bad team in an environment they've never been in a game that I'm interested to see what that building is like this far in the season, when their season is clearly a complete and utter disaster. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like. I also don't like it being back-to-back games against Seattle. I think that makes it harder to win them both. Golden Knights were able to do that a lot last season, but they weren't always just 2 slaughters. So I think one of them at least will be close. They're going to have to get 2 points out of both of those. They come back with 4. It's not going to be great. And then that Vancouver game, that's a team that we'll see what happens with them as it goes on. What are they doing right now? I know they're playing Dallas, still tied. So they're potentially still in the mix. And, you have a situation where you got to make sure that you're holding them off. And that's going to be a tricky building. Again, you played them 2 games and then 3. Yeah, I know it's not a back-to-back. I'm saying they're playing them back-to-back games. Either way, it doesn't make a difference whether day off in between. I know that because I'll be up there. It's the schedule, I think, while the teams that they're playing are very forgiving, I think the setup is in many ways not. I didn't like the noon start today. I thought that was set up to make potentially a weird situation. A lot of it, that's the issue. But they get the win. They've now won 4 home games in a row and done it in pretty convincing fashion. There's only 5 home games left. Probably going to need to win 4 of those. You're in a situation where it's now we got to figure out how to turn this thing around on the road. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. The other side, the flip side of this game, and there are many massive concerns in this game. I went 15 minutes of the positive, and now I have to kind of come down to what I'm calling the 10,000 foot view of this. And the fact of the matter is, You got run off your own ice for 40 minutes against one of the worst teams in the league that got way worse at the deadline. Like, not only is that a horrific hockey team that you just played today, but they were worse. And if they have Marc-Andre Fleury, they win that game. Like, I'm convinced of that. I'm positive of that. They win that game. I know the game winner doesn't go in. They win that game. So you're playing a team that's horrible, and you needed a miracle to find a way to beat them. Now, pulling the miracle out of your hat, amazing. That's awesome. You needed it. You have to get those 2 points. That's fantastic. But the effort through 40 minutes is a nightmare. The back checking from a number of different people, Eichel being probably the king of it, nightmare. The issues in their own end. Like, how many times were there just seam pass after seam pass after seam pass when the Golden Knights are in their own end? If there were 10 players in the Vegas end, it was going to end up with something highly dangerous coming at Logan Thompson. That's a bad team you're playing against. This line that you played against, like, yes, DeBrincat is good, Kane is good, Strome is good, Taves is good. Like, I know they have some good players, but this is not the type of team you're going to be facing down the road here when you're going to need to be winning these games, or if they are to get in the playoffs. That's not what you're going to be facing. You're going to be facing way better lines than that. And they're dropping coverage time and time again. And that's with Whitecloud in the lineup, with Martinez in the lineup, Petrangelo's in the lineup. Like, you're missing Haig and McNabb right now. Like, yeah, that makes you a little bit better, but this has been an issue no matter who's been in and who's been out throughout the entirety of this season. And I think a huge part of that is because the forwards defensively aren't doing enough. They haven't been good enough. That's where you are missing some players. Stone, obviously, massive miss. Smith, obviously, a massive miss. Moving on from a guy like Tuck, who I didn't think was great in the defensive zone, but he constantly was pressuring the puck, that I don't think Eichel brings that for most of the time. And we're seeing that. Eichel's on the ice for 4 goals against in this game. That can't happen. You're too good for that to happen. That's how you end up dropping a game that you cannot drop. They end up not doing that, but that could have been the case in this particular game. How did I feel about Martinez in the limited minutes? He was fine. Like, not good, not bad. Didn't really do a ton for me. Wasn't all that noticeable. I'm not all that concerned about that. I'm still shocked he's even playing. I didn't think he was going to play again this season. I was not even sure he was ever going to play again. I'm really happy to see him back out there. I love the guy. I think he's an awesome dude. And he's a cool, unique guy. And it's great that the last moment of his career is officially now not what happened to him in that corner, getting his face slit. He's now got this. And if he never plays a game again, which I think he will play again, but if he doesn't, that's the new last memory of his career, is that goal in overtime. That is fantastic. I love that. But like, beyond that, like, just the whole narrative of how awesome this game ends up being, you have to take a step back and say, look, there are 14 games left. They need to win almost all of them. And that game, at the very best, was a coin flip to get 1 point out of. And at one point, you were 95% chance on Money Puck to lose the game. So to expect that now all of a sudden they're going to just rip through Seattle, rip through Vancouver, rip through Arizona, and then go up to Manitoba and put in a good pair of efforts against Edmonton and Calgary, Alberta, not Manitoba. Like, good luck thinking that. Like, that's the part that I walked out of that building, and I'm not going to deny that, like, my mouth is wide open the entirety of the third period. Like, oh my God, I cannot believe this is happening. Where has this team been this entire season? And I'm, living through that in a way that I couldn't believe it. But that game should not give you confidence. Like, it can't. Yes, take the great escape, take the big time win, but my goodness, what an absolute nightmare that was for 40 minutes, and you barely find a way to get back in because you're playing a team that's worse than you, and you're not good right now. So, like, I'm concerned because that game did not scream 14 wins or 13 wins and 15 games upcoming. That's not what that said to me. That scares me. And now you start looking at the schedule and you start looking at these other teams. And I'm literally sitting here saying, God damn it, somebody better win that Canucks Stars game, because we can't have both of them getting a point. And we're going to be going down that road with every LA game, every Nashville game, all of these. And like, that's not where we wanted to be. And plus, I don't know where they're at on Pacioretty, Stone, Smith, McNabb, Leonard, like all of these guys, not to mention they can't put them all back in. So they're not going to get fully healthy. They may get more healthy, but they're still an inaccurate shooting team. They still have massive defensive lapses. They still have no semblance of consistency at all. Go back to one game ago. And I know I was not at that game and I did not get to watch that game live, but I have watched the entirety of that game, including making it all the way through the third period. Not sure how I did that, but I did it. I watched through the entire third period, which was guys skating around not giving a fuck, which was fine when the score was what it was. But the Golden Knights played that first period about as well as they have. They were playing against a Nashville team that was a mess. And I think Golden Knights had a huge part of making that a mess. They only got one goal. And then things work in their favor, drawing the penalties, making this happen. If there's no penalties in that game, I don't know what it looks like. I really don't. And so to understand that like the 5-on-5 scoring is still a massive issue. Like they're just not getting it. And yes, it happened in a 3-minute segment today. Take every single inch of that and try to bottle that up and bring it with you to Seattle. And the good news is Seattle's going to play a game that's going to be wide open, at least I would think, unless they do something crazy here. They're going to play that wide open game. There's going to be chances going back and forth, and Vegas should have transition chances all night long, both of the nights, and they should be able to get in there and win those two games. But the difference in what it looks like playing against Chicago, against playing against Nashville or LA or Florida, all of these things, like they're so reliant on the opponent. They're so reliant on the style of play that the opponent brings. And like Vancouver knows how to play Vegas. There we go. Dallas up 1. I'm not sure that's actually what Vegas wants. I think we want Vancouver to win that game, because if Vegas can beat Vancouver the 3 times, I think that's actually better. But I can tell you for 100% certain we cannot have that game going into overtime. We can't have hardly any of these games going into overtime. And I'm going to talk about later tonight on our podcast. I kind of had gone through the numbers and looked at a lot of these things, and I have a much better picture of where we're at. And to be completely honest, a few days ago, I was saying, yes, I think they will make the playoffs. After today's game, I know it was thanks everybody telling me Villanova won. I know that it was a miracle comeback. I know that there's a chance that this galvanizes them and puts them in a position where they can go on a little run. I don't know that this team is capable of the run that it's going to take. And I'll talk about that on the podcast that we're planning on doing later tonight. Hopefully, we'll see. There's possible complications and a number of different things, but hopefully that happens. We won't publish it live. I'll publish it tomorrow morning if that were to happen. But I don't have a good feeling about the consistency that this team brings. You look at that first period against Nashville, and while it is a good period, you're also playing against a team that's having a bad period. You need to exit that 2 or 3 goals up. Didn't happen. The next period, that was one of Vegas's best. They were tremendous. Excellent forcing these penalties, excellent on the power play, consistently driving play, not allowing much coming back in their own end, doing everything that they need to do. I thought they were much more creative in the offensive zone, which is why I thought they were getting to a position where they were able to draw some of these penalties and do some of these things. That's what you wanted to see. And then to also overcome the Brett Howden injury and what happened with that in that game. They overcame that way better than Nashville did to kind of get back out there and show that that game mattered. But then to turn around and, not even 48 hours later, just lay a complete egg for 40 minutes, it just gives me pause to say they're going to win 11 of 14 from right here, or 10 of 14, even if it happens to be that. Like, that just seems horribly unlikely. I think it's more likely they're getting 7 or 8, in which case you're probably going to be way short. That's the concern I have. And then also, like Angela said, The injury bug is not going away. It's not getting better. Patrick out for that game, did not play in this game. 3 shifts after he's been in. He hasn't played all that much. Howden, I don't know how long that's going to be. Probably not anytime soon. Carrier now goes out in this game, and I don't know what that's going to be. Pacioretty has the setback that happened in morning fucking skate. Like, this team is bit by this injury bug, and it's not getting better. And they will get players back in, but they will probably lose others down the stretch. And there is not going to be a cohesiveness that they're going to be able to play with. That is concerning. So that's why, all in all, the win is massive. The game went the way the Golden Knights needed it to go in regards to the result. It's huge that they got those 2 points because it does allow them an opportunity to still have a chance. I think they were completely dead in the water had they lost this game in regulation, just because of the number of home games, the number of games, the number of points they're going to have to make up, all of it. I think they were probably dead in the water. Now, they're not. There's still a glimmer of hope. I think that glimmer is somewhere in the 15 to 20% range, which can absolutely happen. Not saying it can't. It absolutely can. And one of the things that my mind and calculations just cannot come up with, and I had this problem that my entire life watching sports, is I cannot fathom another team falling apart. I can only fathom my own team falling apart. I don't know why that is. It's always been that way. Like, I can look at I'll give you an example. The U.S. men's national soccer team, who hopefully qualifies for the World Cup tomorrow, they have played in Mexico many different times. They have never won in Mexico. My mind told me they cannot win in Mexico. They then play the next game after tomorrow on Wednesday in Costa Rica. They have never won in Costa Rica. My mind tells me they cannot win in Costa Rica. But now all they need is a draw, preferably a win, but all they need is a draw against Panama tomorrow. Panama has never won in the United States, yet my mind tells me they might. It's wrong. It's ridiculous, and I know that. I'm kind of feeling that in a way about the Golden Knights. Like, yes, do I think there's a chance that they go for 13-4 or whatever it is down the stretch, like with those 2 losses, whatever. Can they win enough games? Yeah, I think it is possible. I can see it. But I still think, even with that, if LA plays well, if Nashville plays well, if Dallas plays well, if Edmonton plays well, it still might not be enough. And looking at their numbers, while the strength of schedule is best for the Golden Knights, while they play the least playoff teams, the most shitty teams, the easiest schedule, my mind just cannot tell me that one of these teams can fall apart. It just doesn't seem likely in my mind. And hopefully I'm wrong, because if someone falls down into, and it can be any of them really, and the teams below Vegas, I'm not all that concerned about. Vancouver, I'm not concerned about at all, because they play them 3 times. And if they beat them at least 2 of the 3, and preferably all 3, they're toast. If Vegas gets beat by Vancouver enough to keep Vancouver in the mix, Vegas is fucked anyway. It's not that really worried about them. Winnipeg, I just think their schedule's too difficult. Too many good teams. I don't think they're very good anyway. I don't see that happening. But when you look at LA's schedule, it just seems unlikely in my mind that they're going to crumble and fall apart down the stretch and not be able to get to somewhere in the ballpark of 98, 99 points. Edmonton has been playing so much better. They're kind of the opposite in Vegas, is like, they had their bad stretch, and now they've come out of it. And now they can go and beat a team like Colorado, where Vegas, I don't expect that to happen. So that is kind of my challenge moving forward. One other question I wanted to take was this one. Do I think the power play has changed at all? I don't. I think it's all been Eichel's impact on what's going on, and I still think the power play is bad. I think Eichel has made it better solely because he enters. He enters the zone consistently. And because of that, they're getting a ton more extra zone time. And I also think the fact that they are so banged up is actually helping them, in that they're willing to do 4 whatever. Like, I'm trying to, how I put this, like 5 guys or 4 guys that play at least 2 minutes, or at least 2 minutes, like at least 95 seconds of that power play. It's giving them more opportunity to get something done. So that's where I see that, and I say, okay, that's why it's starting to look a little bit better. I don't feel like it's that much better. I don't feel like they're suddenly going to have this opportunity where they're going to start hitting at 30% down the stretch here. I don't think it's that much better. I do think the entries have been so much better that it does make me feel like they're going to have more goals coming just based solely on zone time that they didn't have before, that they were struggling to enter for a majority of the early part of this season. And that's where we had the problem. I don't think the power play coach switch had any different at all. They look exactly the same as they've always looked in regards to how they set up and what they're looking for. The difference is the focal point is now holding the puck on the side. It had been Stone in that position. I think Eichel's better than Stone in that position. But again, he can't do it as a one-man show. And I think the power play still has massive holes in it, and it's still a problem. So that's my concern. And like Daniel says, the cross-ice passes won't work on the good teams. I completely agree with that. You have to fire them at 100 miles an hour, which Eichel can do, but you can't settle those and rip them in. Like Dadonov got one today. He couldn't believe that he caught it on his stick, and he probably should have shot it immediately, but couldn't believe he actually caught it because the pass was so hot. So that was tough. Thanks again to Conler & Associates CPAs for sponsoring all Periscopes this season. Hopefully there are a bunch more. I am on my way to Seattle. I don't expect to do Periscopes on that because I believe that the rink is very far away from my brother's house. And then there's a situation of how do I get out of there and all of that. I don't see that happening. Goalie interference is on Tuesday, not Wednesday or Thursday. First Tuesday episode because I'm in Seattle. Mike is traveling. We have a little break in the schedule here. We're going to do it on Tuesday, and then we'll probably do a bunch on the road games as they go down the stretch. Each of these road games, we'll talk a little bit more about where we're at, what it looks like, and all that good stuff. So stick around with us. Podcast is planned for later tonight, hopefully. We'll publish that tomorrow morning. We should get a good article, a column. I have not actually had a chance to read it yet from Kevin for tomorrow. Shout out to Kevin for taking over Twitter on Thursday. He was fantastic. Loved that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And then, that's it. That's all we got. So, no, there are not any on the road with Ken episodes as I drive home from the arena. Those are if Jason and I are driving. I love doing those, and I hope we get to do them in the future. But unless they find a way into third, which Edmonton falling apart, we get to go to LA. It doesn't seem like we're going to have any on the roads. And I don't think we can actually do a podcast on a plane if we are happening to go up to Colorado, Calgary, wherever it happens to be. And I'm hoping that I can actually go if they are to make it into the playoffs. So we'll see if that ends up happening. Thanks again to Conler & Associates CPA. Really appreciate it. Please, if you need any tax help, take advantage of them, and they're being SinBin fans. They are fantastic. Multiple people have already done it, and they are great. They'll do it for free consultation if you mention SinBin. Obviously, if they go through all the services, that's different. But they'll answer questions, simple questions for you. They're fantastic people over there. Please take advantage of them. Means a lot to me. Good night, everyone. Cannot believe they won that game. Legitimately a season saver, in my opinion. Doesn't mean the season is completely saved. It just meant that was the end. Now it's not. Good stuff.